I don't know if you could hear that. That was Junus doing his owing as he goes off exploring. I'm sure he has a bit of Siamese in him. Anyway, we've reached Friday the 13th today. It was pointed out to me in a voice message yesterday, and it's like, oh yeah, it is, isn't it? So what better day to talk about, well, following on from a recent video I made on depression. Now let's turn to anxiety and panic attacks. Because the three things are related. Depression is more looking into the past, whereas the anxiety and then what can lead from that, the panic attacks, are very much a sort of almost irrational fear of the future. Now, if you happen to suffer from anxiety or panic attacks, ask yourself this. If you happen to come across this video, have you got it now? Are you feeling extreme anxiety or panic attacks? I'm sure you'd like a quick fix solution to this. There is no quick fix solution, but don't let that depress you. Because I am talking from a place of experience of having all three of those things. This is going to sound rather odd, what I'm about to say. If you do have, or you are suffering from anxiety or panic attacks, count yourself very lucky. Now that might seem a really odd thing to say. What it actually is the body is telling on the mind, and the lower conscious mind is experiencing all kinds of new phenomena that it can't explain. You could say it's an early sign of where you've opened up, going through an awakening, and you get all these new sensations you've never had before, and the mind doesn't know how to cope with it. It's trying to quantify it, it's trying to explain it, it's trying to rationalize it. And of course, this is the real world war. The world being what is going on inside the body in conflict with the mind, and also within the mind. I remember the experience very much where part of the mind from the rational side knows that this is ridiculous, but it doesn't stop that feeling of sheer utter terror. And it can be over the most ordinary daily things like going shopping for groceries. And I certainly had that experience walking back from a store. I had to put the 2 bags of shopping down. I was just holding these railings, and I'd gone into a panic attack where you feel like you're drowning. I was very fortunate that somebody I knew came along and stopped the car, and although it was only not even a 5-minute walk, they took me back in the car, so I was able to get home. It can feel very isolating, but that is a sort of form of going into an internal world. But the problem with this is you can then have all your focus on the anxiety and the worry, and not knowing which direction to go. One thing I will say that was a big contributory factor into getting me out of this was to look at conspiracy theories. Because what you'll find, particularly with the depression, is things you had an interest in before no longer hold an interest to you. I had no support to deal with this, so this is another reason for this video, in the hope that it does reach people that are going through this, and to know that you're not alone, and also to show that you can come out the other side. Now, don't get me wrong, this location I find myself in here is idyllic, but if you were to put me in the middle of a city, I would certainly feel that sort of suffocating feeling, but I would also be able to handle that situation rather than going into a full-blown panic attack. It's not a denial of these things, it's coming to a new relationship with these things, and in doing so you overcome them. My own experience of the anxiety was the mind is now trying to replace that void where the things that you were interested in no longer hold an interest to you, and it's trying to fill the gaps with something new. What I would suggest is to go down that external route, find something that will spark a new interest for you, because then you're taking your focus away from the anxiety itself. Now, these are only suggestions because there is no one size fits all to this. But consider having a cat. You then got something to focus your attention on, and there's a certain obligation to looking after that animal. But you may have an objection that you're allergic to cat fur. Well, don't go for a hamster because they're nocturnal. Go for something like a gerbil, or maybe buy yourself a fish tank. Start looking on the internet into buying a fish tank and all the things that you would need. It will give you a new focus, a new direction, because to break the cycle of anxiety and panic attacks requires stepping in a new direction and breaking pattern. And the beauty of this world we live in today, perhaps the thought of going to a store and actually buying something is terrifying in itself and can lead to you having a panic attack. And that dreadful, insurmountable door that you've got to cross and go out in the external world and encounter lots of people can be really terrifying. But you can order these things online. You can do it from the safety and comfort of your home. But also consider your home environment. Is it restful? Is it peaceful? Is there anything you can do to change that? Now, certainly moving is one of the most stressful things you could put yourself through, so I'm not recommending that. But go and have a shower or a bath, relax, have some scented candles, maybe do a bit of dusting. That in itself will give you an almost instant feel-good factor, which will help as a sort of alleviation from anxiety or panic attacks. I would not recommend going down the route of tablets of any kind. But look at the external world, use the resources you've got. So if you do have the finances, maybe to buy a fish tank and buy some fish, then go down that route. These are only suggestions, of course. Go with what grabs your attention. Also ask yourself, this zone you find yourself in of anxiety and panic attacks, is that where you wish to stay? I think I know the answer to that one, and I think you do as well. So it's about breaking pattern, it's about making a change. And it does open up into something beautiful. It's just you're on that threshold point where you can't see what's the other side of the door. So when you look back at this in retrospect, it's actually a blessing. It's a wonderful thing to go through. It just doesn't seem it at the time. And many of these things we go through, it's always in retrospect that things then make sense. It may be you could try growing a few houseplants and things, planting seeds, if you have a garden. Take up a new interest, something that is restful. Another thing you can do is write yourself a list of 10 targets for each day. Now, you're most likely not going to achieve 10. The chances are you only may be able to tick 2 things off the list. So it may be going shopping, doing a bit of cleaning, and various other things. And you may only achieve 2 out of those 10. But what you'll find, and I suggest keeping those lists to refer back to, with each day, you can look at it from a positive point of view, that, okay, I had 10 things to do, I've not achieved all 10, but I have crossed 2 things off that list, so I'm only left with 8. So don't just keep a to-do list, keep a completion list. And what you'll find is that balance will change, which is like a reinforcement at a very subconscious level that you're rebalancing yourself. And over a period of time, it may be weeks, it may be months, but certainly after maybe 2 or 3 months, you'll be able to look back to that point and you'll see that you are making a positive change and you are beginning to come out of it. I'm not saying that within a couple of months you're going to be completely free of anxiety or panic attacks, but you'll certainly be going in the right direction, and it will only get better and better for you. It can feel very isolating, and generally your circle around you have not been through this, so they're not equipped to come from the place of experience to help you. Someone who has absolutely no understanding, for example, may say to you, oh, cheer up if you've got depression. It's like you really need to hear that. It just shows that they have no understanding of what you're going through because they've not been through it. And I feel the only ones that are qualified to help you are those that have been through this and are able to say, yes, I was in that position, but now I'm not. Now, the panic attacks, this is only a personal testimony because I can't say this is a definitive thing. It may be different because we're all different. But I'd get a butterfly sensation, like a fluttering butterfly feeling in the stomach, which was an indication that I was going to go into a panic attack where you start gasping and you feel like you're drowning. As soon as you get that feeling, that is the time to stop. Remember, it's about being present and in that present moment and recognizing and learning the language that the body is communicating. So as soon as you feel that butterfly sensation, just stop and just be, and just do very slow, controlled breathing. That will knock that sensation out because the mind is now refocused on breathing consciously, and it will get rid of that panic attack early warning sign. And so I'm just trying to, the hardest thing I find about this is to identify key moments, because it's like a very slow creeping shadow. The way depression will seem to sort of, something will happen in your life and then it's like bang, and it's an explosion. But the coming out of all of this, the depression, the anxiety and the panic attacks can seem almost imperceptible, like say the movement of the sun in the sky. I'm not saying stare at it, but you know the relative position of the sun to where you are. And after an hour or two, you'll see that it has moved, but you don't actually see the movement of it, the same as the hour hand on the clock. Unless you really stare at it, you don't really see the movement. That is very much the best analogy I can probably give as to the coming out of anxiety and panic attacks. It's very slow, almost imperceptible in that change. But what is actually happening is your life is going through a massive change, mentally as much as anything else, where you don't know where to go, you don't know what to look for, and it's very much about finding a new focus. And of course, when you're in the sort of thick of it with a depression, you can't really find anything that interests you. But when you've got to that anxiety stage, things will start opening up for you if you allow it. And it will come to the point where maybe in a few months, it's like, wow, I can now see with this luxury of being able to compare across time to the past that I am making progress. And it then does lead on to things getting better and better. But of course, you can fall back into it. But again, it's about learning through repetition. So just put the steps into practice again. Because certainly with depression, you can get to a point where you'll just sit in a corner, you won't wash or have a bath or anything for days, you feel dreadful, and you just start to not caring about yourself. So taking an active step, and this is something where you haven't got to go outside. Within the apartment or the building you live, you've no doubt got a bathroom. So do things to make yourselves feel better. I would also recommend going to the beach if you live near a seashore and listen to the sound of the waves. Pick up one of those seashells and put it to your ear. That saying about hearing the sound of the sea, it's actually the blood that you can hear in your body, which is interesting because it shows that the external is a sort of macro to the micro that's going on inside you. But that can be a very rhythmic, meditative, and very calming thing. I would also look at maybe having things like chamomile tea, things that are very calming, things that are very restful. For myself personally, classical music in particular, and that could be a major pattern break for you to explore that, because you're moving away from a type of music that has a fast drum beat, which is something that is to excite you and motivate you in a very sort of adrenalized way, whereas the classical music can be a lot more soothing. You generally only get drums, which are called timpani, for dramatic moments, but they're not there in the background all the time. It's carried through the emotions of the string section of the orchestra and the spirit within the woodwind section, and then the very earthy brass that will come in as well. It's something I would definitely recommend exploring. And the beauty of all of this, you can do it all in your own home with the internet. This is where something like Wikipedia and YouTube are brilliant, because you can leave aside all the conspiracy theories, and you can look into the lives of these artists, and you can listen to the music, you can explore. It may be the very tangent that will pull you out of anxiety. I can't give you a definitive answer to all of this, as I've said, but these are just more suggestions based on my own experience. So I hope that that is going to at least give you food for thought and a sort of pattern to like start looking at something you've never looked at before. explore something new, something you maybe never had an interest in. It may take a while to actually find it, but I would find that you will find something that's, oh, this is interesting, this has got my attention. It's going to take you away from that focus on the anxiety and then the subsequent panic attacks. And it will become far easier to be in control of yourself, and you will get to the stage where you'll be able to look back and say, yes, mission accomplished, I've come out the other side. Because I certainly have, and I'm grateful for those experiences, because I can now talk about those experiences in the hope that I can reach out to somebody else that's going through it, because it can feel like a dreadful experience when you're really in the thick of it. Well, we're up to nearly 21 minutes. I didn't expect this video to be this long. So I hope that has helped at least one of you out there, and helps give you a pathway, a new trajectory to look at, to reevaluate your situation, so you can come out of what can seem like very debilitating experiences. So as always, unconditional love to you all.